Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today, and we are sitting down to talk about ye old Xbox. I've received a lot of questions since the This Is an Xbox campaign started running around for Xbox themselves, highlighting that they are more multi-platform than ever. You combine that with the Bloomberg interview that we covered, where Phil Spencer said there's no red line, basically suggesting every single Xbox game could go over to PlayStation or Switch at any point in time. And I've received a lot of inquiries like, Matty, what's going on here? Has Xbox lost their dang mind? And normally, old Matty, when I was like in high school, would rush out the coverage, rush out my thoughts, but nowadays, everyone has an opinion. I think a lot of content is really valued on just how well thought out your opinion is. Like, you can just post on Twitter whatever you want. You can post on YouTube whatever you want. So I think it's important to just hold yourself back, even though you may lose some views in the process, and just think things out, observe your surroundings, and see how the situation develops. And I'm glad I waited, because since Xbox has done the This Is an Xbox campaign run, they've also committed to a couple of other interesting things, like no physical games for some of their biggest upcoming titles. So there's some major changes in the Xbox business happening right now that they have committed to in a much harder way than they ever have before. And many people are wondering why, how, what's going on, and I just hope to break things down in a fun conversation here today. But before I get into anything else, a quick word from today's sponsor. It's the holiday season. The best gift you can buy someone is a video game. Unless you're buying them like Skull Island Rise of Kong, then you are a horrible friend, and whoever receives that gift should reevaluate their relationship with you. But today I'm here to tell you about Instant Gaming, who has a Black Friday sale starting this weekend. So you want to get in now and get the deals. The games I'm really looking out for are some that are on the Game of the Year list that I missed out on earlier this year, like Balatro and Black Myth Wukong. So these are some of the pickups I'm looking to make before the holiday season really gets into full swing. But you should go ahead and check it out. Link in the description down below. Great deals available over at Instant Gaming. And remember, act fast because the deal ends on December 2nd. All right, let's start off with the This Is an Xbox campaign. So this is a new thing Xbox is doing for the holiday season, might I add, saying that you can access your Xbox ecosystem everywhere. This is kind of building off of the idea, the tagline that Xbox has been running with for a while, which is Xbox Play Anywhere. And the idea is, as the ad shows, play on your phone, play on your computer, play on any of the handhelds. Like I got one right here next to me in the Logitech G Cloud gaming handheld. This thing is awesome. This one had Xbox marketing behind it. There's also the Asus ROG Ally. That one had Xbox marketing behind it. And we're seeing Xbox go more and more to other devices. And of course, the most significant move for hardcore gamers was watching 4 exclusives move over to PlayStation and Nintendo Switch and observing what's happening there. And since then, as we covered in the Bloomberg interview, Xbox's Phil Spencer has confirmed that there's no red line and that other games are going to go over as time goes on. When it comes to this campaign, there were 2 telling things about it. Number 1 is the lack of a reaction and more just questions. And by that, I mean that if you had this kind of campaign run 7 months ago, right, in the heat of the whole, is Xbox doing exclusives anymore? Remember how the internet was literally on fire? We're not even a year removed from that, and Xbox has drastically changed their business model so much that they've neutered any possible reaction from their fans. It's more, if anything, I've seen as someone who covers Xbox content, we run the Defining Duke Xbox show, disappointment, just, all right, whatever. And to be honest, I do think that indifference toward your brand is way worse to have than anger. Anger means there is some hint of passion within the fans that they want something. But when they're like, all right, that is to me the worst reaction you can get. And Xbox historically has aggressively moved in particular directions that they believe are the future. And this is the latest in that set of moves. You want to look at another one? Let's go back to the start of the Xbox One generation. Xbox saw things were going digital. Xbox saw that your console could be your all-in-one entertainment device. So they went in on TV, get your games digitally. You don't need to own them physically. And they were a full generation and then some early. Now people are moving over to digital purchases. You look at the digital purchasing splits online, it is significantly slanted towards digital only. And we'll get into how Xbox is now leaning into that a little more wisely, although you look behind me, you see my collection. I'm not thrilled about it, but you get it based on the business sense there, whereas early in the Xbox One generation, no one was ready to do that. And Xbox went too aggressively and killed themselves for a generation. That's why, to me, this move is so shocking, because they're mid-generation. They do this business update. They kind of play around back and forth with lip service, and then finally, with this marketing campaign ad, are ripping off the Band-Aid, which is something I've advocated for. Is you're already halfway there. You're confusing people. Make it clear. So between this ad and the Phil Spencer interview, the second thing I noticed is that Xbox is unified in this vision for the first time in a while. There was clearly a lot of infighting, a lot of we're not going to do exclusives, a lot of we're actually going to continue to do exclusives. What exactly that looks like, I envision Xbox being Valve in the future. Not maybe as good as many people view them as, but I think they are modeling their company after Valve, right? Valve has the Steam marketplace. Where you look at Xbox, they have the Xbox marketplace. They have the Microsoft storefront on PC, which they desperately need to fix. The problem I really have with Xbox taking this Valve approach is Valve has a great storefront. They have a great handheld device. And not like everything they've done has been fantastic, but Xbox has a ways to go on PC. They are horrible on PC. I never use that Xbox client. I avoid it as often as I can. And when it comes to the mobile storefront, which is the next biggest part of Xbox's initiative, which is likely going to guide where their actual handheld goes, that is not even ready. So to punch a campaign forward saying, this is an Xbox where basically you could just locally stream things, I feel like it is a little foolish to pull the trigger this early. Xbox is pretty much already there, and I appreciate the ripping off of the Band-Aid and the unified vision moving forward. But the things that they say are an Xbox and a PC, or playing on your phone or playing on your tablet, I don't think are really the best ways to experience Xbox. And if you're trying to sell someone on the outside stepping in, they might be getting a less than adequate experience, which is what Xbox has been kind of known for as of recently, especially with the Xbox One generation. Like, yeah, you can play the same games there, but they don't look as good, they don't run as good, so go over to PlayStation, right? They're not selling the premium experience, and I think by leaning into this marketing speak as Xbox and then not having the premium quality attached to these services you're providing, you're kind of incentivizing people to switch sides. Still, when you look at the money Xbox is making, and a lot of it is swayed by Call of Duty, you kind of understand it. And that's the thing that a lot of people were fighting about, is like, why would they do this? But, you know, money talks. And when Microsoft sees that Xbox is becoming a top earner, despite everyone saying Xbox is failing or dying, perhaps they are dying in what we knew them as, but financially speaking, they are doing very well. And that is no doubt thanks to Activision Blizzard King, which they desperately needed. They completely turned around their profit margins and were a borderline necessity to be added for the survival of Xbox. We know this because Xbox, with the release of games like Starfield and Hi-Fi Rush and other big exclusives, a new Forza Motorsport, we're going to leave out Redfall because that definitely wasn't going to move many units, failed to sell a lot of hardware, failed to move the Game Pass margin, failed to move the Xbox profit margins. That's not good when your Xbox Game Studios, your first-party lineup, is not doing that. So they definitely needed Activision Blizzard King, and now because games aren't selling on Xbox as often, whether it's thanks to Game Pass or lack of interest, people are buying those games on PlayStation. You look at Sea of Thieves and how it was a top-selling game on PlayStation. That is a whole different ball game now for Xbox, where they go, oh, people will buy these games, just maybe not in our ecosystem. And that's why I think they're going to continue to go multi-platform. We actually just had a rumor pop up here covered by Pure Xbox that Forza Horizon 5 will arrive on PS5 despite a delay from Xbox. And this is according to leaker Ecstasis, who says, quote, Forza Horizon 5 has already been ported to PS5, but its release was delayed, not canceled this past summer. However, they consider it a game that can do quite well and it will arrive. I don't know when, but it will arrive, end quote. Which I think anyone who looks at the Xbox ecosystem objectively knows this has to be one to go over. This is one of the most successful Xbox games ever. This is pushing, I think, 40 million players now, and it's sold ridiculously well. So at a certain point, you're capping out within the Xbox ecosystem, and it's time to move over to PlayStation, where there's not as much competition with racing games, and eventually with maybe a Switch 2, move over there and sell millions of more units there. And if this rumor ends up being true, which I think it will end up being, what this symbolizes is that really any Xbox game can go over. I know Forza isn't what I call the sexy IP. It's not like a Halo or a Gears, and maybe holds that level of significance with like core gamers, but Forza has been with Xbox since day one. Since day one. This is synonymous with Xbox. It's one of their best-selling IP, and for them to go over to PlayStation would signify a massive change in strategy, where even their most hardcore, longest-standing IP would make the jump. If I were to make a comparable, this is like Gran Turismo coming over to Xbox. It would be a significant shift that I don't think would rattle core gamers as hard as it should, but it's a major IP that's particularly associated with one platform moving over to the next. So keep an eye out for that. I think that's probably going to happen. This was actually one of my picks for the second half of the year. It turns out I was wrong with that, but we've seen more aggressive moves like Indiana Jones coming out on PlayStation. Then when it comes to Avowed, an interesting situation is happening there. Right now they have a premium edition up for pre-order at Best Buy. It's a steelbook with a code N box, and you also get a letter from the developer, a map, everything but the game itself. Xbox is walking away from box copies of games, and that is why I buy all my physical stuff on Switch when I really can, because that's where media is most preserved and most safe. But PlayStation second. I buy as little as I can on Xbox, not only because their entire ecosystem incentivizes me not to really spend money outside of Game Pass, which I just, funny enough, was at a retro game store and had a whole chat with a group of people, and all of them were like, yeah, I'd be pissed at Starfield, or I'd be pissed at Forza or whatever, but I didn't pay for it, or I'd be pissed at Metal Slug Tactics, but I didn't pay for it. And so that ecosystem's buying less and less games in a particular manner of speaking, so much so that their exclusives, which right now Avowed's not announced for anything except PC and Xbox, is getting a digital code. And even with Indiana Jones, it's a very similar setup there. And guess who also did this? Last year, Starfield. What's on the inside here? A cred stick with a game code on it. You also have this slip here. But yeah, when I got the premium edition, no disc. No disc. Starfield is just software on my console. And it's one of those things where, as someone who runs a retro channel, I try to be very self-aware, right? That this is not what I'm doing representative of most consumers. Most people want to save space. Most people don't have the attachment I do. And most people don't seem to be as old school as I am. But I feel like Xbox walking away from box copies is even bad for store presence. It's bad for marketing, right? You step away from that. It's the holiday season right now. I just put up a sale video on Retro Rebound if you want to check it out. Lots of game recommendations there. But those are games that you're probably not going to see on store shelves, at least not unless it's like a collector's edition that's way more money than you would actually commit to for a video game, because you could just get it for free with your Game Pass subscription. Otherwise, you're spending $95 on something that you have literally no attachment to yet. So you're just kind of selling it to like the most hardcore fans, which is what collector's editions and so on are for. But you get my idea here. Like, you can't even sell someone a base copy of the game, the cheapest option they have available. It's either like Game Pass, a digital purchase, or anything physical is premium stuff that only a particular audience would pick up. So to me, no, this is an Xbox, isn't a marketing campaign signifying Xbox has lost their mind. It's them saying the quiet part out loud. It's them really putting into play that vision the Xbox One first had, that they then bent the knee on, reversed a lot of bad choices, and tried to get in line with PlayStation, and still got completely outsold because of a lack of exclusive support. It's just sad to see, as someone who's covered and owned an Xbox since the original, simply because with the Activision Blizzard purchase, many people saw this was going to be the turnaround for Xbox, and you can see it in the numbers, profit-wise. It was. It seemed to be the shot in the arm they needed, the financials that would stabilize their business. What a lot of people were saying ended up being true, and it's at that moment that Xbox flipped the switch and walked away from exclusives, which many people thought Xbox could finally be more competitive in. But this is the catch-22 of Xbox owning Activision Blizzard, which is something that I didn't fully consider at the time they committed to the purchase, is that the eye of Sauron, or the eye of Satya Nadella, is on Xbox, right? Because the moment they make the biggest purchase in gaming history and commit to that gaming business, well, you're not this little toy in the Microsoft ecosystem now, like, oh, you guys are trying Game Pass? Cool. Like, we can just flush that money down the toilet. It's whatever if it fails. It's not that case anymore. It's like, oh, we put like almost $70 billion into this business because now it's time to recoup on those investments. Xbox bought a ton of studios. They put out many a games, and not all of them have lit up the sales chart where it felt like it was time to tighten things up with such an investment. So that is the catch with buying an Activision Blizzard. It could be signaled as what saved the Xbox business, since they weren't making as much money in one of their biggest years when it came to releases and hype, but also it could signify the death of Xbox as we knew it. And that is a very complicated feeling to process, because I don't think Xbox is going anywhere. They're still going to do hardware, but the idea is going to be very Valve-like, as I was saying earlier, where you can play these games wherever you want, And I think the best thing Xbox can do moving forward is making their devices the all-in-one gaming device. By that I mean, you're just not the Xbox storefront. If I could have an Xbox where I could also access my Steam library, access an Epic Game Store library, whatever PC marketplace is there. If Xbox could do something like that, think about their handheld, where right now, like, Steam Deck is phenomenal. That's the lead handheld in my eyes. I do like these streaming handhelds like the Logitech G Cloud Gaming handheld because you can access Steam, PlayStation, Xbox with it. Like, that's a great one. Portal's also a great option with that new update they just got. It's really good now. Like, they've really, over at PlayStation, turned that thing around. But there isn't a handheld that's all-in-one where I can access my console games, my PC games. And if Xbox can kind of lead the charge on that and kind of open their ecosystem in that way, where I can just through Xbox access everything, that is going to be what wins long-term. You know, I think the reason the Steam Deck is the leading handheld is not just because it's a really great device, but also it's the built-in library. So if Xbox can sell you a system that says like, hey, oh, you didn't buy any Xbox games? That's cool. You can access your Steam library here. I think that is something that could speak to people, especially if it's a handheld. It's like, oh, my Xbox and PC games are here. I think that is the vision moving forward. And so I think of Valve a lot when I think of Xbox. We'll see when the time comes what Xbox is really up to with that next handheld. But I think if they want to get ahead of a behemoth like PlayStation, who's reportedly working on a handheld, this is what they need to do. They need to just compete in a way that's very different, which is just saying, hey, look, yeah, they have all nice exclusives. You'll probably buy that anyway, but you can access your whole built-in library here that you've invested in here in Xbox's ecosystem, even if it's not in particular just Xbox games. So we'll see, but those are my thoughts on what Xbox is up to as of lately. I look forward to getting your thoughts down below. Ladies and gentlemen, take excellent care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.